Next question.
Next question.
In a world where podcasts and the stash never existed, what job do you think you two would have ended up doing? And if you have met at that job, do you think you would have become friends? For example, maybe working in an office environment. This is easy too. There is no doubt someone as eccentric and as blowhardish as you are, I would be attracted to, just to be like, this dude is fucking amazing. He is so fucking weird.
So what job are you working if you're not working?
Like if we were selling shoes.
Okay.
We would have become even faster friends if we were working on a 9-to-5 job every day together, rather than seeing each other sporadically over the course of years with the podcast.
Yeah. And some of them being bad encounters, some of them being good encounters.
Right. I mean, first off, then we don't have the domain name thing being that messy part of the initial part of the relationship. But
maybe I reserve the good employee locker, and that's where the problem comes in.
But I think though that I believe that we would have become friends because I would have seen how weird this was. That would have attracted me to spend more time with the weird guy.
Okay.
Than with the guy who was So
you have no doubt that I would bring
all business.
I would bring some cool flea market finds into the shoe store.
I have no idea what you would bring, but it would be unusual.
You have no doubt that I would.
Yeah. It would be unusual. It would break up the monotony of the day, and I feel like I would have easily kind of meshed with you, no matter what. Nuclear physicists. No matter what environment you put us in, we would have come together, I think, and become friends.
Now my question to you.
Yeah.
We're working at a shoe store. I'm going to the flea market. Mm-hmm. Am I buying shoe-related things? Am I buying a Braddock device?
Yeah, you're fine. What, is that the metal thing that
yeah, it's put your feet in, yeah.
You would be finding ones that were antique ones.
Vintage, okay.
From stores. And
still signed by Braddock himself.
Yeah. That's who you are.
Okay.
So I think that question is a good question. That's why I picked it, but I felt that it was pretty easily answered.
And I think I would get along with you because, I don't like talking to people initially right away. It's those people who come on overbearingly at first that kind of put me off.
Right, and I think that a lot of people...
I think you'd be reserved enough that I'd be like, okay, he's cool. I don't gotta, we come in, we do our little, nod, and then,
I just also feel like I wouldn't be as turned off as some people would be to the know-it-all tone in your voice. I would love it. I still love it. A lot of people can't stand it. Right? I mean, let's be honest. You're not everybody's cup of tea,
I know.
And it's the braggadocious tone of you delivering information that really turns people off. Not me. I love when you do it, and I love when you do it to somebody else, and I can see it in their face that they're like, "What the fuck is with this guy talking down to me? Who's he?
Is he right? I don't know, but he sounds like he is. So yeah."
I have one here that I also liked. When you go out into the world, this question's for me. When you go out into the world, do you still tell people that you work at a comic shop, or do you try to explain the concept of now that you work in podcasts and at a podcast general store? This came up recently, and that's why that question really resonated with me. Now,
it came up kind of recently with me as well, so I want to hear your answer first.
Now, for those who have been listening a long time, they know that early on in Tell 'em Steve Dave, when I made the comment that when my kids are out in the world and they asked them, "What does your parents do?" and they're like, "Oh, my mother's a teacher," and I made the joke, "Oh, what does your father do?" "Oh, my father's not alive," because I always felt like a little kind of it's working in a comic shop is not one of those manly jobs. It's not equated with
mechanic.
working on a construction site or doing
contractor,
blue collar lunch pail dude, or even
Mailman.
He works in stocks.
Yeah,
it's just the most corny, nerdy. And this was in an era when nerds weren't celebrated as they are today.
Yeah, before Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. So I was always gun shy to tell people that I worked in a comic book store, and now I can't even tell that anymore because of the.
No, you work. and we're technically in a comic book store.
So I had a guy call me from the Devils. He didn't know who I was. He was trying to sell me season tickets. And not that he should know who I am, but like he
wasn't trying to sell you energy like the last guy who worked for the Devils was.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he should know who I am, but like not at all. But he was calling for my wife, actually. He goes, "Is Deborah Flanagan there?" And I was like, "No." And I saw the name come up. It said New Jersey Devils. So I was like, "What's this in reference to?" And they had just signed Dougie Hamilton, a big free agent signing. So the guys making the cold calls to get season tickets are now like out in force because now's the time to strike while the Devils fans are excited about this new signing. So he's calling all these people and he's saying, "Well, are you a Devils fan?" Because my wife wasn't home. And I was like, "I am a Devils fan." And it took a long time for him to get to like what do you do for a living. And we talked for an hour.
Seeing you talk to people who are hockey fans in the TSD Town General Store, yes, I can totally believe you talked to the gentleman for an hour.
And I told him at a certain point because I felt bad. I was like, "Bro," I was like, "I really feel bad taking up all your time." I said, "Because I'm not buying season tickets today. And I know that's what you're doing." I said, "I know that's your job and I know that you're whittling me down and trying to make this personal connection with me. And I appreciate that. I know that's what you got to do, but I feel horrible." I said, "Because when we get off the phone, I'm not going to be buying season tickets." I said, "I just don't have the time. I just don't have that kind of schedule right now." And I explained, he goes, "Well, what do you do for a living?" And I told him what I did with like this long pause, and I was like,
I'm dead.
And finally I just spit it out. I was like, and it was so hard to spit out because it sounds so douchey. I make digital content. And it came out like I wanted to vomit after I said it.
Well, at least you didn't say like I'm an influencer.
Oh yeah, I would have just wanted someone to shoot me right there on the spot if I had said that out loud. But so
guys hitting the EMP button on the other side.
So he said to me, "Oh, really?" And he wouldn't let it go. Like I was like, "So I want to talk about hockey." I like immediately bring the conversation back to hockey and sports. He goes, "Well, what kind of content is it?" He was intrigued by that, and I was like, "It's like a podcast." "Really?" He goes, "What's the podcast?" And I was like,
Which podcast do you tell him?
I told him, "Tell him Steve Dave." Okay. That's the go-to. If I'm going to say any, I'm not going to tell him the general store.
Oh, what about Puck Nuts?
So I told him that what the name of the podcast was, and he immediately Googled it while we were on the line.
Okay,
and he goes, "Oh shit, you got like 400 some episodes. You guys have been going on a long time." I said,
"Do you think he's really impressed, or is this just part of the?"
"Oh, it's all part of this show. Okay. For the spiel to get me to buy tickets, season tickets." He mentioned that this is really cool. He's looking at all the stuff. He goes, so Brian Quinn is on this podcast, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, fuck." He goes, "That is so amazing." He goes, I can't believe I never heard of this. I can't believe that. And I go, "Yeah, I'm a pretty big Devils fan." I said, "I actually, if you've ever heard of the show Comic Book Man," I said, I was sporting the Devils colors constantly for 7 years. The Devils were kind enough to let me wear T-shirts and hats and, promote the Devils as much as I could." And he was like, "This is amazing." He goes, I had no idea, that we be talking to such a big Devils fan, because I was able to back up that I'm a big Devils fan.
So after 45 minutes of talking about the Devils, he didn't realize he was talking to a large Devils fan.
This made it a little bit more like, I guess for him, a little bit more like, wow, I really got a fish on the line. I cannot let this guy go. He's definitely got the money, he assumes, to buy season tickets. So we're just talking, and I mentioned that, about the podcast and everything. And then we start talking, and then I start asking him questions about where he's from, because I go, "How are you able to devote so much time to trying to like break me down to buy these tickets?" I said, I go.
Now, my question is, where do you think that they're, like, I think if he's cold calling just down the phone book.
Well, my wife had purchased tickets for me for my birthday 2 years ago, maybe. Okay. And that's how he has her name and number.
Okay, that's just what I'm questioning of. That's why I think that they may have more time, is that they have a list of confirmed fish.
Former purchases, like she made the mistake of buying them right from the Devils directly. Okay. So now they have her info, and they're not going to let up now. So he starts to tell me that, like, he's like, "How about this?" I just throws this scenario out. He goes, "How about I join your Patreon for a month if you buy season tickets?" And I was like, "Well," I said,
"You should join for 3 months."
I said, "I know you could join for $5." I said, And I go, that's really not a value trade-off, I said. I go, you would have to join at the highest tier for like 10 months, I said, for what you want me to drop, I said. Even though I'm a huge fan, I said. And I started to ask where he's from and everything, and he's from Boston. So, of course, he's from Boston. I was like, what are we going to talk about?
Oh, the Patriots.
Tom Brady.
Yes.
And so he was a Tom Brady fan, and we had a good time talking. I was like, bro, I said, how do you justify talking to me for an hour when we're not going to get a dime out of me? I said, and he was like, it's just fun talking to you. I said, it's fun. It's more fun talking to you, he said, than talking to somebody who doesn't really want to talk to you when you know they really don't want to talk.
Yeah.
He goes, obviously, he goes, I could tell you don't have anywhere to go. So he goes, so I realized, though, that you had more time in your hand than most people do, and than they'll give me when I'm on the other end of the line. So we talked for a while, and like I told him, I said, I am definitely going to go out to some Devil games this year. I just can't be buying a ticket now for, January, because I have no idea if I'm going to be available that night. I just buy tickets for on the spur of the moment, like, oh, are they playing tonight? I got nothing to do tonight. I'll go. And that's what I told him. But yeah, so that's to answer that question. He's the first person I ever told, a stranger I ever told what I'm doing now for a living. And it was awkward. I've got to find a better job to lie to people.
I'm kind of the opposite in that I talk a lot to older people.
How old?
Relatives.
Oh, yeah. So your relatives who are in their 60s, 70s,
Yes,
80s.
so explaining podcasts to them, because they're explained podcasts by my father, who really has no grasp of
Why don't you just tell him it's a radio show on the internet?
I try. He just doesn't seem to.
I mean, that's the simplest, most.
It's tough because then I send him pictures of me dressed up as things. And so
he's like, oh, so how is this a radio show then?
Yes,
right?
yes.
So he's seen you dressed as the octopus.
Yes,
but he hasn't seen you as Elvira, correct?
No, I was. We were out to breakfast. I was about to show him that photo, and just as I'm about to slide it across the table, because I was telling him about, we did the Halloween episode. He goes, they don't make you dress up stupid or anything, do they? Make fun of you or have you do stupid things? And I pulled the phone right back, and I was like, no, they never do anything like that. And
I can understand why you would pull it back, but like in my defense, or in Tell 'em Steve Dave's defense, to your father, literally, I couldn't even get the sentence out when I had the idea for you to dress as Elvira. Hey, Gib, do you want to dress as Elvira? Yes. Yes, yeah. I'll do it.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Order me a dress right now. So it's not like I had to bend your arm back around
No. But, it's a father thinking that,
right.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand it totally. Yeah.
But, I was at my cousin Becky's wedding the other day, so I had to explain to people, and it was just so much simpler to say, I still work at the comic book store.
Yeah. It's just easier.
Yeah, so much easier.
It's easier. Yeah, and I know.
So many less questions because no one wants to ask you any questions about it, except for, that must be cool.
I've seen those Marvel movies. They're fun.
Yeah, they are. Loki's great. Yeah.
I don't know if you feel as self-conscious about it as I do. I don't think you do, but it's so funny when I was talking to Tim. I don't know if I mentioned this on the air or on a podcast, but I identified with Tim so much. Tim, the record store clerk, one day we're getting ready to record an episode of the Kiss Pod, and he mentioned that he was talking to Dave Windorf of Monster Magnet, and he goes, I got to go do a podcast with Walt tonight. And he was like, oh, really? What's the podcast about? He goes, it's about Kiss albums. And he was like, oh, really? And he goes, we do it on video. He goes, really? And what do you guys do on video? Well, why do you put it on video? And he told him, well, we wear costumes and everything. And he was so intrigued by that, that he was like, he said that he slipped it because he felt very self-conscious because this is Dave Windorf, rock star.
Yeah.
And he said that he was so hesitant to be like, I want to show me something of you guys in a costume. So he said he pulled out his phone and was so sheepishly handed it to him to be like, because he knows he felt like he was going to get lambasted because he's wearing the Kiss mask and everything.
I think if you show Rock and Roll All Night and podcast every day to someone, as long as you open with the show's opening,
right,
with you guys out in the park and everything, that's just instantly hooks them in.
Right.
I think it sets the stage.
I said the same thing to Tim. I was like, if you're going to show Dave any segment, I said, you show him the opening, but you never, ever show him the end of the Kiss Me Stefan where we lip sync to Rock and Roll All Night and we were shaking our booties and everything. I said, you do never show him that. They go, you throw your phone in the river before you show Dave Windorf that clip.
As you see his hand going to hit the next arrow, you just knock it out.